Actually, initially this is not my presentation, but from architect Lara B. Idago, credits to her for allowing me to use her presentation. Okay, functional concepts and interior, and about the interior environment. So this will be really quick. Ilang slides lang mo to. Thanks. Oh, okay, madami rin pala. 40 slides. But yeah, we'll try to finish it all today. Functional concepts and the interior environment. So do you have any idea what functional concept is? Meron mga brief idea what is functional concepts? Functional concepts. Any vague idea about that? In the word itself, function. Meron ba? Can you raise your hand? Can you unmute yourself? Alright, so walang idea. So it's your first time having this word. From the word itself, function means the use of a building. Concept means what? Concepts means initial idea, initial schematic, initial visualization, initial concept. So it's your first thing that came to your mind when you see a certain project. Functional concept. When you combine these two, it means how you will group, zone, or what? Group, zone, design a certain space from the smallest interior space that you can imagine. For example, your bedroom. How will you arrange the furnitures in your bedroom? Where is the bed? Where will be your closet or yung damitan? Where will be your study table be located? And the CR, of course, that was really important. And the interior environment. So when we say interior environment, it's what? You have any idea? Meron bang idea? Interior. When we say interior, wow, shy type yung mga ano. How about Shanlex? Do you have any idea what an interior environment is?
Hello, sir. Yung ano po? Yung inside po ng bahay.
Correct. So, functional concept plus interior environment goes hand in hand when we design a simple space. Let's say, for example, your bedroom. What elements are present in a bedroom? In the interior space of a bedroom. So there are different things that came to your mind. But first, initially, iisipin muna natin, ano ba yung magiging gamit ng space na to? What will be its function? What is the function of a bedroom? What is the function of a bedroom?
Para
Yes, Nathaniel, you're speaking.
para ano doon kung mag-rest.
Yes, a guest bedroom for guests, for staying, of course. But the main function of a bedroom is for someone to rest for the day, a space for resting. So let's proceed now. So that's the overview of our lesson for today. What is functional concept and how will you apply it in the process, in your design process as an architect? So the first thing is, what is horizontal disposition? So basahin natin. This pattern is dictated by the function of the building and the desirable size and shape of the units themselves. What do we mean by the pattern? pattern is dictated by the function of the building. Patterns. We have different kinds of patterns, right? So let's say, for example, a web, diba? A spider web, it has patterns. When you see, when someone says a web, you can easily imagine the patterns, the pattern that a web looks like. So in every building that we design, there is this pattern. That pattern is dictated by the function. What does that mean? What does that mean? Do you have any idea what does that mean? So from the word itself, function of the building, there are different areas in a building. There are different areas in a building. First, or areas. So yun yung sinosolve natin when we are in an initial stage of our planning. We have to know what is the function of the building and what are the spaces that their building needs. So when in a professional setting, as architects, we are always, before we draft a plan, before we create drawings, we initially talk with our clients. So knowing and interviewing them what will be his likes and wants for example, the project is a residential building. So all of that function and spaces in a building is dictated by the needs of the client and the building itself. What will be your project? Is it a residential structure? Residential buildings are different from commercial buildings. So they have different needs, different spaces. So always, for example, let's go in a smaller scale na project. For example, your project will be a residential building. There is always this pattern. That pattern na standard when you are going to plan a residential building. Do you know alam niyo ba kung ano yung mga spaces in a residential building? Do you have any idea? Big idea kung ano yung mga nasa loob ng isang residential building? Walang idea. So of course, in a residential building, we have this trio spaces. The living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. It's always present. And that pattern is always seen in a residential building. So that pattern is guided to be adjacent to one another. Living room, dining room, and kitchen. Because it's the core, the main core of the function of that building. The function of the building is to what? Serve the needs of the people living in that space. So that's what we call horizontal disposition. So this various unit of plans are first arranged in a horizontal manner. Horizontal disposition. So let me annotate. Did you see my drawings? Did you see this?
Po.
Horizontal manner. Let's say, for example, this is a residential. And then, this is the living room. Living, dining, kitchen. So at first, if we don't have any idea any idea of what how we can work on with the spaces that is given to us, or of the spaces that we have research about on a certain structure, we arrange them first in a horizontal manner in order for us to know the relationship between these spaces. How would you know the workable relationship between these spaces? Paano natin malalaman? Paano natin malalaman yung workable relationship na yan? So hindi lang sa relationship yung kailangan nating i-work out. So pati na din sa spaces. How would we know the relationship between these three spaces? Paano natin malalaman yung movement ng tao between these spaces? What would be the first thing that, okay, Jasper Janera, you're raising a hand.
Function.
Yes, was dictated by the function, and also not only the function of that that spaces, but also the behavior of man, or the behavior of the users. Hindi lang dun sa function tayo magre-rely. So, ano ba ang typical behavior ng tao when we are in a home? Of course, let's draw another circle. But first, what tayo na? Behavioral. So of course, wari, ito si man. Sorry sa aking drawing. Man. Typical behavior of man when we're entering our house. Of course, if that man has a car, he will park first. Right? Park first. So garage. So drawing tayo dito ng car. Sorry sa drawing ko talaga. And then after he park his garage, he would enter the house, living room. We will rest first. So, sofa. This is a sofa, by the way. Then, after he rest for a little, and then maybe he will go back to his bed. Or since pandemic pala tayo, mauuna muna pala yung disinfection. So it really depends on the situation right now. So it's up to you, the designers, on how you will research about this. Kung ano dapat yung mga behavior ng isang tao na gagamit sa space niyo. This is a bed, by the way. Ano ba naman katong si Sir, naging architect, di marunong mag-drawing. And then, we'll take a bath. Shower. So that's how we lay out or facilitate the movement in a building. Okay? Oops. How would I erase this? Clear oral value drawings. Yeah. Next, this process is called planning for potential circulation. So at first, kung babalikan natin yung drawing kanina na binura ko, we study first human behavior, we study first the function of the spaces. Yung palang process na yun is called planning for potential circulation. So always remember, when you are designing a certain building, ito ang uunahin nyo. Alamin nyo kung ano yung circulation, possible circulation sa isang area, or sa isang project na gagawin ninyo. So malalaman nyo lang yung possible circulation na to on your program or architectural program for listing down the guide, listing down the possible spaces in and the possible human behavior in your building. Each category has an active or passive role in defining space and its function. Some spaces, such as offices, have specific but similar function and can be grouped into linear or clustered forms. So it really depends on your scale, on the scale of your project. There are some cases that your project needs a complex planning. For example, resort. Have you ever been to resort? Nakakita na ba kayo ng resort na may isang building?
Wala pa
Meron,
po. Hindi pa po.
meron din, but it depends on, again, the similar function or the theme. So merong mga resorts na for example, hotel and resort. So they will just group the buildings into one. So it really depends on the function. So, or the needs of the client. So ang sinasabi lang dito, there are spaces or there are certain types of planning na kailangan should be single in form, linear in form, or clustered. When we say linear, yung sunod-sunod, like have you ever been to a row house? Ganito yung planning ng row house eh. This is the unit, and then 1, 2, 3. So linear planning to. Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, row house. And then single, of course, isang bulk lang na ganun. So some of examples here are residential homes, condominium buildings, apartments, office buildings, and so on. And clustered forms, typically this was clustered forms in a larger scale of planning, like city planning. So of course, there are different kinds of building, but in a city planning, it consists of different kind of building na kornya. Yung institution or yung city hall, yung church, and ano pa? Plaza. Hindi mawala yun. Plaza. So in a city planning, ganun. So iba-iba. Depende sa use ng structure. Some spaces, such as concert halls, have specific functional and technical requirements. So concert halls. So dito, binanggit niya na meron ibang buildings na need ng special treatments. So be very careful when you are designing concert halls like this. So when you read time saver building types, ang para daw magkaroon ng good acoustic ang isang place or isang concert hall is, ang planning niya is should have this kind of form, and then this will be the stage so that yung sound can propagate easily. Ito yung viewers, ito yung seating area. Sorry sa drawing ko talaga. And then this is the stage. Ito yung sound, nagba-bounce back siyang ganun. Because it needs special treatment. And in this wall, may nilalagay sila ditong boards, walls. Minsan gumagawa sila dito ng ganitong type of structure, so that the sound can easily bounce back and forth to the viewers. And also, kaya ganito yung planning is to maximize also the view. So kahit nandito sa dulo yung viewer mo, makikita niya pa rin yung nandun sa stage. So that is some spaces na it needs special attention. Okay. Here tayo. Each category has an active, Yun pa rin. Some spaces such as lobbies are flexible in nature. What is lobby? Meron ba kayong idea what is lobby? Lobbies. Lobbies, meron? Kahit anong big idea. Wala? So lobbies are just open spaces, by the way. So lobbies in a commercial space is always yung bungad na space when you enter. For example, a commercial space like the mall, SM Mall, SM Cabanatuan for example. When you enter SM, so di ba ganito yung planning nun? So here's the door. Here's the pivoting door. Here's the door, by the way. And then there is another door here, right? Pangat talaga ng drawing ko dito. Ayan, naayos ko na guys, sorry. This is the entry, right? When you enter here, there is an open space. So wag niyo lang muna pansinin yung mga kiosk. Kasi SM Mall, ito ay kiosk to eh. SM Mall is maximizing its space for business. Kaya may mga kiosk yan. And yung kiosk yan, per floor, per tiles, merong bayad yung rent nun. Kaya they are maximizing the space. So there will be huge space here, no? So it can be used for different purposes. For example, Toyota will have its own promo. Then this space, this lobby, will then be dedicated for that. So, nalagay sila dito. So 4 different sets of activities. So yun yung function ng lobby. So in each project, there will be there will be these kind of spaces that be very versatile, no? Or will have different kinds of use for them. So these are just open spaces. And therefore, we can freely define these spaces around them. So next, functional grouping and zoning. So kanina we have discussed the functional concept. The functional concept, sabi natin that spaces are researched first and dictated depending on the use of the building. So meron tayo ngayon tinatawag na grouping and zoning under functional concept. Grouping and zoning. So what is grouping and zoning? What is grouping and zoning? Do you have any idea?
Wala po.
How can I, sino ba yung nagsasalita? Sorry, I was really distracted. Can you? Hindi ko siya ma-mute or hindi ko alam kung ma-mute ko siya. Hindi ko siya. Tingnan ko lang. Alright, ayun. Nakita ko na. Sorry. Okay. Back to our topic. Sorry, I get easily distracted. So you can unmute yourself if you have questions or if I ask you an open question. Okay, let's make this discussion more lively. So what is grouping and zoning? So you guys said that you have no idea. So in any space, Di ba sabi natin kanina, we have to collect information first based on what the client needs for a certain project. So once we have collected the information and the spaces that your client needs, we can start to plan or organize the spaces by grouping it and zoning it according to its function. So we have to consider the following when grouping or zoning these spaces. When we say grouping and zoning, let me annotate, is halimbawa, you have from the horizontal, yung kanina, anong tawag doon? Kalimutan agad din. From the horizontal disposition, so ganito, in-arrange mo halimbawa yung mga spaces mo. So baka pwede mag-drawing dito. Ayan, kuwari, in-arrange mo na yung mga spaces mo. Si living room, si dining room, si kitchen. So kuwari, ito yung mga, halimbawa, ito yung mga spaces mo. Living, gawin natin. Living. Dining. Kitchen. CR. Or toilet and bath. So, halimbawa, that is the space needed in your project. So how do we consider or how do we apply the grouping and zoning of spaces? How do we know the difference between these four, and what its commonality? Do you have any idea? Okay, Jasper?
Usually po magkakasama po yung apat sa isang floor, ganun.
But what is the commonality and the difference between these four spaces? What is that thing that meron sa isa na pwede dun sa isa? May same na characteristic. So it will be dictated on how will the space will be used. So for example, sa living area will be used by what? It is open for everyone. Since nung pinag-aralan natin yung human behavior ng tao, yung first thing na bubungad kay man when he park his car is the living area. So it's a place for resting, and of course, when it is a place for resting, it's open for everyone. It's open for the public to be used. So we have that first characteristic, naming it na what? A public space. Public space. Sa kitchen, is it open for everyone? Yeah. Yes, at some point it is open for everyone because it is where the food is stored. So when you're hungry, you can easily access it. But what if someone is preparing there? So of course, you have to consider the traffic that will happen on that space. So kitchen and dining. So kitchen can be grouped into a semi-public space. So it is restricted at some point. Now you have to consider carefully what will be its function in different times of the day. Right? And what if magdagdag tayo dito ng space? Since all of these three are in a semi-public, toilet and bath, of course, it's a private space. So you can't use it. Private space. So, na-imagine nyo ba na halimbawa may ginagamit ng toilet and bath sa isang bahay tapos you gotta go. Kailangan mo yung gamitin yung CR but there is someone there. Pwede ba kayo magsabay? Pwede ba yun?
Pag mag-asawa po.
Yeah. But iba yung term for that. Ibang space yun. So, toilet and bath, in the scenario of this one, since magkakasama nga siya sa isang space itong apat na to So, would your husband and wife punta pa sila dun malapit sa toilet and bath? For example, this was in a ground floor. Punta pa sila doon para dun sila magsabay maligo. Of course not. So since the toilet and bath is exclusive for the people in the ground floor, it's considered as a private space. Okay? So let's magdagdag tayo ng spaces para dun sa isa. Sabi niya for husband and wife. Maglagay tayo dito na master's bedroom. Master's bedroom. And so nasa second floor na tayo, guys. And yeah. And suit master's toilet bath. Of course, since the master's toilet and bath is always inside a bedroom, so kailangan kasi ng separate na private toilet and bath for them. So syempre, dapat lagi itong magkasama. So it was always included in just one space. One space lang. So there are these kinds of instances. So it really depends on your spaces and how you will arrange it and how your project needs it. Okay? So there are different things to consider. Basahin nyo na lang. The need for adjacency. So adjacency means kailangan ba itong area na to, area 1, is katabi niya or has direct access with your area 2 and 3. Similarity in general rule. So so katulad kanina, is master's bedroom have the same is master's bedroom should cater as a private toilet and bath on its vicinity or space. Relatedness to departments, goals, and systems. So, departments, goals, and systems. So, in a department, so punta tayo sa office building. So, is the admin department kailangan ba malapit siya sa admin department sa working area? Yes, kasi admin area will be kind of monitoring what is happening in this area. So relatedness to departments, goals, and systems. What are the goals of these two kinds of spaces? Sequence in time. So sequence in time, it's all about the human behavior kanina, kung ano yung magiging flow ng manner niya in a certain situation. Required environment, so that's your space. Required environments, types of effects related to Types of effect produced, these are both the same. So for example, you have a generator and that generator is producing noise pollution in your structure, then you should separate this space in your main building, or i-plan nyo siya na nandoon sa back of your house facility. Back of the house facilities means nandun yung mga maintenance nyo, nandun yung storage, nandun yung mechanical room, etc. Relative proximity to building. So if your planning is a complex one, should your pasalubong center near the arrival of the, we're talking about an airport planning here. So is your pasalubong center should be near the arrival building of the passengers. Mga ganon. Related to core activities, so it's the same with sequence and time and the need for adjacency. Characteristics of people involved, so it's the same with that one. So what types of people or what type of client are you catering to? Is it a businessman? So of course, kapag businessman, iba yung behavior niyan sa project. So for example, your project is a residential and so on and so forth. Oh, marami pa. Volume of people involved. So this will dictate how big your structure is. So once you are in your Rule 7 and 8, mapag-aaralan niyo yan ng National Building Code of the Philippines. Extent of man or machine involvement, degree of emergency or critical situation. So extent of man or machine involvement, machine has different kinds of setup on how it will be maintained versus the man. So it depends also on how we will group the spaces per se. Degree of emergency or critical situations. So does your building cater to accessible fire exits? So kailangan, saan ba dapat malapit yung fire exits mo? Where will you group or zone your fire exit? Of course, sa PD, sa Fire Code of the Philippines, so maximum yata. Yes, maximum is 45 meters. 45 meters from the public area. So that's how you will zone and place your spaces. Relative speed of respective activities. Relative speed. So kailangan ba ng space na to ng flowing or walang obstruction sa spaces niya? Kailangan ba ng open space for this for the work to be done much more efficiently and speedy? Frequency of activity occurrence. So does your space cater to a lot of activities? Duration of activities, for how long will that activity anticipated growth and change? Does your space cater to possible expansion in the near future? All right. So, ayun. So, all of that I have said, some examples here, pag-aralan na lang natin. So, kitchen and dining. So, of course, ano ba ito masusunod? Hindi na mazoom. Ayun, masusunod pala. Sorry. So sa kitchen and dining, we have, so sabi dito, these lines represent the access or the circulation path. Saan ba ako mag-annotate? So ayan, itong mga ano na to. So of course, living area should have direct access to dining, and dining should have direct access to kitchen. So need for adjacency. So administration should have this kind of specific space or a breathing room wherein the people can mingle here at the center, and then they have choice. Where will they go? Will they go in this space or the cafe? And so on. Prison pala to. Sorry. Control. No, prison pala. Sorry. Kala ko siya ay commercial. And then street. Yeah, you get the idea. The need for adjacency is the space that needs to be together or near each other. Transportation, similarity in general rule. So we have these examples. So of course, the tennis club. So punta tayo dito. Annotate tayo. Tennis club, clubhouse, entertainment, hall, sports club, and sports shop. So this will be your social space. That's why it's in the middle. Dito lahat papasok yung tao mo. So when they go into this space, they have two choices. Either they will go to the tennis or they will go swimming. So that's how you plan these specific spaces. So it also is in proportion with the behavior of man when you propose this kind of setup to them. So pagpasok ko ba, ano ba ang gusto mong mangyari sa mga tao dito sa loob? Do you want them to relax there for a bit? And then after they relax and buy some things on that space, will I give them the option to go to this space or this space? So mga ganong scenario. Okay. Relatedness to departments and goals. So this is what I'm talking about. So the administration should have direct access to the offices. And the administration should go hand in hand with accounting because the accounting provides the numbers, the datas, the financial statements to the admin so that the administration can make a decision. So that kailangan talaga is magkaka-adjacent sila. So ganong degree guys yung pag-iisip when you are planning. Next, sequence in time. So this is what we call behavior pattern. So dito sinulat niya, pagpasok ko dito, I will arrive, I will enter, I will be oriented because in this zone meron ditong information desk. Saan ako dapat magpunta? What are the directions that I need to do? It's in the museum. And then ticket. Of course, when you get oriented, so dito papasok na yun, bibili ka ng ticket. So there will be finance and admin here. And so on and so forth. Ay, pwede na din. Required environments. So of course, as an architect, we have to also know what the furniture types will be. So what kind of furniture? Is it prone to moisture or not? So of course, when it is prone to moisture, then those furniture should be eligible to your interior space. And so on and so forth. Computer, mechanical, office. So it depends. Special electrical needs. So of course, there will come a time that your computers, you don't want your wires to be tangled all around. So as architect, we want organization. So yung raceway nyo, search nyo kung ano yung raceway. Yung daanan ng wire nyo goes hand in hand with the mechanical. Since dito may mga apparatuses din. And dito din. Of course, dito din sa laboratory. That's why they are interconnected and adjacent to one another. Required environments, visual contamination, degrees of privacy. So this is the degrees of privacy. So ito yung madali nating mabibigyan ng example. So in an office building, sa lobby, of course, they are free for all people, open. And then secretaries, yung first level of privacy, because this is where we set appointments. We set appointments to the officers, to the executives, to the president. So the degree of privacy lessens as the status of the people or the rank of the people goes up. Visual access. So yung mga halimbawa, in a concert, you bought a ticket for VIP, of course, yung visual access mo should have greater access to your idols here. Kuwari, Blackpink yung nagpe-perform dito, so VIP ka. So yun, pinaplano din natin yun as architects. Congregation pala ito, pero it's the same concept, no? Kung pang general admission yung ticket mo, then dito ka. So yun. That's how we group functional spaces depending on the required environment. Types of effect produced, observation intensity. So in a hospital, what do we need to prioritize? In an hospital, syempre ipa-prioritize natin yung mga nasa 50-50 na, mga nagre-recover na, or in labor, yung mga pregnant women, ICU, observation intensity. What needs to be prioritized first? So, yun yung setup niya dito. Relative heat produced. So, minsan, ginugroup din natin yung mga spaces na nagpo-produce at the same time ng heat. So, this could be applied on a restaurant setting. So, ibig sabihin, ito dapat iisa lang yung meron silang common space or adjacent sila sa space. First is yung wiring, no, madaling wiring, electrical wiring, madaling mag-install ng wiring since they are adjacent to one another. And of course, the effect that it will produce, since mainit nga tong mga to, then you can create a solution na here na to provide exhaust fans in these spaces. That's why they are grouped to one. Okay. And so on. So it's the same with this one. Basahin nyo na lang. Relative weight, noise produced, vibration from the word itself naman. You can distinguish the differences. Wet and dry, thrust production, odor production, relative visual center, relative proximity to building. Yan. But the main point here is sa types of effect produced, the main point here is we group certain spaces basing on what will there be effects to the public when they are at the actual setting. And also, not only to the public, but also to your structure. For example, itong relative weight. proximity. So how long or how adjacent your main spaces should be from one another. For example, the plant nursery. So of course, pag park mo pa lang dyan, gusto mo na makita agad yung mga display, yung mga kung ano-ano dapat na makita. So ito yung first access mo since this will be the main entrance. Kung dito maglalagay na main entrance, so on and so forth. Relative to core activities. So, parang yung sinabi ko din kanina about human behavior. So, ito parang this is an example of behavioral analysis. So, principal requirements, sequences, no? So, arrive and check in. So, this is applied to any projects as well. Hindi lang dito sa airplane planning. Pati sa iba't ibang project. This characteristic of people involved. Yan. We have banks, offices, housing, casino, so on and so forth. So in every project, it means they have different set of requirements then. That's the main point of the characteristics of people involved. What kind of people will be using your building? So iba-iba ang requirements niyan. That's why it's very important for you to have background research first before doing your drawings. Extent of man or machine involvement, right? So depends also on the process. Water treatment muna, then lab, then office. So ang main point lang naman is to know the process in a certain kind of your structure in your project. Then, tingnan nyo na lang to. Degree of emergency or critical situations. Ayan. Relative speed of respective activities. That's why sa shopping complexes, makikita nyo talaga na open spaces yung nilalagay nila dun sa bawat. Sa big open spaces. Because yung activity ng tao should have speed for respective activities para makapag-function ng mas mabilis sa structure. And of course also, like in a mall setting, mas madali nila ma-market yung products nila. Frequency of activity. Okay. Architecture studio. So low lang naman to since ang magiging main communication area lang naman dito is lounge or seminar. Duration of activities. Yan. So it's the same with like behavioral analysis. Sa house, low duration. Okay, they have separated the length of stay of the people versus the spaces that needs more social interaction in them. So yun lang. Growth and change. So your structure should be prepared for expansion. And that's it.